All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another golf video. It has been a couple weeks since we've done one, but now that we have the PGA coming up this week, figured no better time to jump into it. And like I said, we got the PGA at Quail Hollow to dive into in today's video. I'm going to go through the course a little bit, talk about some of the players that I like. We'll highlight some of the top guys in the field as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of the final plays that I'm rolling with myself for the week. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. In terms of how we've been doing on the golf year, still down just around 7 units, which is unfortunate. But as you know, golf is very, very tough to predict. So you know what? We're having a good time doing it, having some juice on the weekends. And that's all we can ask for as right now. But let's hope to string together a few decent weeks because we did all right in Masters Week a couple weeks before as well. So we're doing all right. Just not great is how I would put it. But let's dive into this. So if we take a peek over at datagolf.com, we have the course fit tool, which kind of just pulls towards what matters and what correlates a little bit more to Quail Hollow Golf Club. Driving distance being a number one probably thing to look at here. A lot of strokes gained off the tee is what we're focusing on in our model as well as approach. Now, a couple things that we'll dig into with approach as we get into this course is not just any old approach, right? Yes, it's important to have your normal, ball striking, wedges, and all that in line, but we really put a lot of emphasis on the 200 plus yard approach numbers and that type of stuff. If we look at this, and this is when they played the PGA Championship a few years back in 2017, look at these approach buckets in terms of approach shot distribution. 200 to 225, these white lines are tour average. So as you get further and further out, way more approach, and this is just using that 1 year, but still worth noting because we'll show the data over the last 10 years in a little bit. But obviously, you could see here that there should be, at least in terms of our modeling and weighing of what matters, a lot of emphasis on those longer approaches. Driving accuracy, not all that correlated to success. Putting around the green, kind of in the same boat. And I shouldn't even say not all that, important. The dotted white line is tour average. So you can see driving accuracy a little bit more important than tour average. Same thing with putting, and around the green, not exactly so much. That is definitely something that we're considering, I guess, out of these 5 pillars, the least, right? But I would go driving distance and approach, and then secondarily accuracy and putting. Let's get into the table now. This is a lot, but pretty much all we have to look at is red numbers and green numbers, and you'll see that there's a hell of a lot of red on here. When you see a red number, that means it ranks toughest over the last, or I guess at that season, top 5 toughest in that category on the schedule. So a lot of red here. You can even see just in general, if we look at Quail Hollow right here, very, very long. We break it out of the, few years that we have. I guess we don't have 10 years. We have 7 years. You can even see, 8 years, including the one where they had the PGA Championship. But you could see a bunch of those years, all but 2. It actually was a top 5 length course. Par 4, par 5 in terms of yardage, very far as well. Par 3 is really, really far. They're not ranking in the top 5, but still, if you see some of the numbers that they have for this week, it's like multiple 220 plus yard par 3s and that type of stuff. I want to take us over here to the approach. So this is the approach shot inside and then outside that 150 yard range. You can see a lot of red there as well, making us obviously want to focus on that. And then off the tee, though we don't see, I guess, really red numbers or anything like that, there still is some interesting numbers to note here, right? So I think off the tee is going to be something that we very much focus on. Penalty, you can see you want to avoid bogeys, penalties, everything like that. So overall, guys, this is a tough course, and you can even see by, some of the numbers here. We can get into, middle of the pack, right? You can see -6, -7. I would say, this is back in 2017, right? 21, Xander wins this one. It's probably going to play a little bit harder and a little bit longer now. So I would say if you post, a 14 or a 13, I'm not going to say you're going to win, but you're probably in decent standing because looking at this course, a bunch of the holes do ultimately play over par. I want to say there's only 4 or 5 right in the middle there, right, when you can make some ground that play below par. 16, 17, 18, incredibly difficult, so we have a lot to look at in this, in this week. Now, what we're going to look at here is the last 3 years. We'll look at the leaderboards, in terms of the PGA Championship. Obviously, Quail Hollow plays a little bit different, but in terms of when we have I guess this here, you can kind of see some of the things that matter. I talked about the approach, right? Same thing with off the tee, but even when you get into the, top 10, top 15, you start to see a lot of reds in the putting, a lot of reds in around the green, so not exactly something that we're focusing on, and you'll see it right here in our custom model. So what we have weighted, and we have a lot going on here. This is a great site. I'm not affiliated with them, would love to be. We've talked before, just haven't really ironed anything out, but bet the number. Really good golf database, right? We have a ton mixed in. So off the tee, 20%, driving distance, 10%, club head speed. I think it's going to be really important this week. 4%, carry distance, 5%. So a lot of that involving distance and gaining off the tee, right? We move then into approach, 17%. This is all out of 100, the weight that we're giving it. Approach from 195 plus, so that 200-ish sort of yardage, 18%. So a lot of approach. And then we have some little throw-ins here around the green. Putting on overseed, which is the type of grass that we have here. We have this filtered to 11 courses that have overseed. Putting just in general against the field, last 30 rounds, and then bogey avoidance at 10%. So we'll let this model load up. We did have it loaded, probably didn't need to do that. We'll let it load up, and I'll catch you guys in 1 second. So the two top names on the leaderboard should not surprise anybody. Rory, who's having an incredible year. Look at all that green in his last 5 rounds. His last 5, 1 T5, 1 T12, and T7. The dude is absolutely going off, right? And then also we have none other than Scotty Scheffler. So obviously we sit here and it's like, yeah, these are going to be two guys that probably, even though 425 and 500 are some crazy sort of odds to go in a really hard course like this and lay that much, juice in a sense, they're probably the two of the best players on the planet right now, bar none, right? I'll talk about Bryson in a second because I do like him, but look at Scotty, accurate and long, right? In terms of that bucket from the 226 plus and whatnot, actually very good at it. I worry a little bit here about that 176 to 225 range, but from the fairway and the rough, he's actually positive on it. We look at Rory, you're kind of getting the same story except for that 176 to 225, but very good when it comes to that 225 plus, and distance we already said matters, right? And he's gaining in his last 24 rounds here, 0.7 to the field in terms of strokes gained. If we look at this just in the last, let's say 10 rounds for Rory, 0.87. You look at it in the last 5 rounds for Rory, things just get better and better. So off the tee, one of our biggest things here, Rory is obviously crushing. So on the model, yes, we do have Rory favorited as we do Scotty. From another favorite perspective, we don't have live data in here, but Bryson, I think there's few players on the planet, maybe these two, that are better than Bryson as of right now, and we know that he's going to gain off the tee, and we know him from longer ranges is very, very good, and though he had that little minor collapse, I guess, in front of everybody on Sunday at the Masters, he was getting up and down. His around the green, his putting, all of that was pretty damn good as well, so I think Bryson is a viable candidate. As we move down the list, and this is all sorted by outright odds, so as we get deeper and deeper, you'll have more and more long shots. I'd say I don't really love anyone until we get to Justin Thomas here, and Justin Thomas, quietly in the last month or so, has looked really good. You can see this Valspar second, Masters T36, okay, RBC Heritage 1, and then Truist T2, right? We dig into him a little bit more as we do somewhat of a deep dive on him. And let's look at his let's go 5 rounds based on what we just saw, right? Off the tee, he's gaining strokes. He's not all that accurate, sure, but really is moving the ball. From a putting perspective, he looks okay, at least on tour average, which is so important for him. If he is just a net zero putter, he can win any tournament. Around the green, he's fine. And then strokes gained on the approach looking really good. Tour average 65.7% in terms of greens and regulation. JT, nearly 80%. I should say, 78, not really average. That's a little bit much of a leap. What I will say, though, the more and more data we pump in here, so if we bump them out, things do look a little, wouldn't say they get worse, but you can even see here, kind of losing strokes, 50 to 125. But sneaky from those further distances, looking pretty good, right? So JT, definitely a viable candidate here. And then before I like anyone else, we have to scroll pretty damn far down the list all the way to Keith Mitchell, who, in fact, if we sort this by what my model and those percentages spits out, Keith Mitchell, number 3 name on the board this week. And he's looked okay. 5 top 20s since Houston, looking like he's playing okay, right? Now, this is obviously a little bit different of a beast. You look at him and you're not necessarily thinking of a massive, massive, massive bomber, but still averaging higher than tour average. Let's look at that hot streak during those last 5 rounds, because that's what I really want to focus on. 312, 0.5 strokes gained off the tee, greens and regulation higher than, right? Getting up and down, making his putts. So Keith Mitchell here, a sneaky candidate for someone that we do have a decent look at, and that's per 130 to 1 to win it. Now, I'm saying he's more of a matchup or like a top 30 type guy, right? But you can't hate on the fact that this guy looks like he fills out our model pretty well. Gary Woodland, another one. Yes, we see that around the green, ranked 105. That ain't all that good. We know that. But what did I say we're emphasizing the least? It would end up being, around the green. So in terms of distance, club head speed, carrying the ball, putting, getting up and down, avoiding bogeys, that type of stuff, Gary Woodland honestly looks fairly sharp. Lee Hodges, another one that we like, and we'll actually filter this to all the likes. We only have 4 more or so. Lee Hodges, another guy that doesn't really do everything well, but a few of the things that we like bogey avoidances, like putting, like those long-range approaches. Lee Hodges, a guy that is worth considering this week. And again, look at the odds. That column right here, look at the odds of the guys that we're looking at. This is a tough week. You're either going to get the creme de la creme, or you're finding some value way down the leaderboard. And I think we're leaning towards the latter, right? Because only Rory, only Scotty, and then maybe considering Bryson, and then everyone else, you drop a bunch of spots, all the way down to Justin Thomas, 22 to 1. Nicholas Norgard, I would say that this is a good look. I do worry about the consistency from him. T5 at Myrtle Beach, T33 prior to that, multiple straight cuts. So is that all that great? Not necessarily. We've definitely rolled with him multiple times this year. He's been good for us. He's also kind of smacked us in the face a few times with his putter. Pause. But a lot of red in terms of the approach. That worries me. But the good thing about him is when he does, play fairly well when it comes to his approach, you could see T15, T25, one last year, one this year. So that could be a good thing to see. But this is pretty tough, right? Losing shots in this approach. He's obviously long. That's why he ranks well in our model. But to me, this is a guy that at, 250 to 1, that might be why we like him. Not necessarily because of he fills out the stat sheet in terms of our model. And then last but not least, a guy that we have lost so much bread on this year, but you know what? Always time for a get back. And he's finally coming off of a T5 a couple of weeks back. We have Kurt Kitayama, who gained across the board in that T5 finish at CJ. But think about this. Look at what he's done this year. He's been so volatile. I get that. But in PGA Championships, the last 2 years, T26 and T4, so maybe he's got a little bit of juice that can help us out there. We know he's going to gain some strokes off the tee. We're hoping the approach and the putting can kind of lock in, though, because that's where we can get into some trouble with him. But yeah, these are the names that I'm looking at as of right now, and those are the reasons. We only have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 names. We may add to this list. We may roll with some other players, so make sure to keep an eye on the final plays. You'll find that in the pinned comment. But other than, the top 2 names in the leaderboard, we do take a pretty big jump all the way down to JT, and then an even bigger jump into who's interesting to us after that. So that is going to wrap it up for this week's golf video, guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Glad to be back doing some golf content. It's really fun. Obviously, it's not our best sport to bet, but damn, is it one of the most fun, electric, and entertaining. So hopefully you guys do appreciate the content. Hit that like button if you do. Hit that subscribe button. Catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.